I've been with my husband for about 5 years now. Well, we have not really been clicking very well for the last couple of years, so we decide to go to couples therapy, where he tells the therapist, which blows our mind, that he wants to have an open relationship now and he doesn't want to be with just me. Well, that's not all, guys. He decides to give me an absolute bombshell, and I'll tell you exactly what that was.
Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be telling my life's problems to absolute strangers on the internet, but here it goes. All of the names are changed, by the way, because doxing someone in real life is something I don't want to do. My name's Claire, 30, female, Stevenson. I'm a realtor from a very prominent real estate agency based here in New York City. We mostly deal with high-end office spaces and homes situated in major cities, and I've been quite privileged in my life. I was born to working parents in the city of New York. My dad worked as an ad agency, and he was part of many major presidential campaigns as well. While my mother was a manager at an insurance company, I was the only child in a toxic home environment. My parents fought constantly, and they wanted to divorce each other so many times, but never went through with it. They negotiated and hung on, but this had drastic impact on how I viewed relationships in general. I never dated anyone for more than 2 months, always afraid of commitment, and I started dating around the age of 15. And by the time I was in college, I had dated about 20 people. This was when I met Harry. I went to Harvard on legacy admission to do my MBA, and Harry was an elite student who came from a rural town in Mississippi. He grew up quite poor himself, and also came from a broken home like mine. Both of his parents were absolute alcoholics, and they fought constantly, to the point where Child Services wanted to relocate Harry to a different family or orphanage. His mother passed away when he was 13, and his dad took off to never be seen again. He grew up with this aging grandmother who complained a lot, and all of this just motivated him to get out of the town and never gave him an ounce of happiness. He was given a massive scholarship to match his elite grades. Well, you see, we met at a library where he was actually making out with another girl. The only gift Harry got from his parents was his handsome features. He is 6'3" with a sharp jawline and a perfect hairline. At times, he looks like a runway model. So in college, he found friends who helped him with the charm and confidence that he needed, and this made him almost irresistible. After high school, I was actually sick of going through the routines of dating, so I had just given up. I wanted to be left alone more than anything, and this desire of mine was interrupted by Harry and his shenanigans. For some reason, after I caught him literally making out with another girl, he went on annoying me for 2 years. While dating other girls, he would hit on me right in front of them, and eventually he wore me down. And I said yes, and I agreed to go out with him on very certain conditions. But to everyone's surprise, we stuck on until the end of college, and we were quite a beautiful couple too, so we had a lot of eyes on us. After college, I joined my current agency as an assistant to a realtor named Rachel. Harry moved to New York, where he found a job as an analyst for Goldman Sachs. We even moved in together after dating for 4 years into this lavish apartment in the Big Apple. Throughout our entire relationship, we spoke about how we both did not believe in the institution of marriage. So, this was the final step in our relationship, and at this point our parents invited us over for the first time for dinner. Though the dinner went smoothly, there was palpable tension in the air, and the next day I get a call from my father telling me to break up with Harry. Well, I was confused by this sudden demand from my parents. I have dated a parade of losers throughout my teenage years, and they had not ever uttered a single objection to any of that. But the first time I had a healthy and respectable relationship, they wanted me to end it. I shouted at them to leave me alone. I told them that their marriage was so toxic that normalcy seemed weird to them. Back then, I truly believed it too, and Harry was nothing but respectful and accommodating to me. Life went on, and we started making way more than we could spend, so we picked up rich people habits, private clubs, long vacations. Those years were the sweetest of my entire life. Then, for some reason, Harry started bringing up marriage a lot, talking about the benefits we would have under tax laws, and we also attended a lot of weddings for our friends and relatives, and slowly, but surely, we both started joking about proposing just to have a fancy wedding, but to my surprise, Harry actually proposed when we were on a trip to Bali. The gold sand beaches and those deep orange skies like cotton candy. He dropped to one knee with a beautiful ring in his hand, and yes, I said no at first, and this caused a lot of controversy among our friends who came with us, but I was not happy about being put in such a spot. Then Harry told me that we could always divorce and not expect each other to be any different as live-in partners, and all of the convincing pushed me to agree to the marriage. 3 months later, we got married off the coast of Amalfi. It was a beautiful wedding, but my parents were not happy that I'd married the man they wanted to break up with, but they came and supported us anyways, and Harry had a very small part of the family show up to the wedding. The first few months did not seem any different, and then there was another problem that we did not plan for. I was off of birth control, and well, I got pregnant. Harry was too stunned by the news, and we had just gotten married, and all of this might have seemed too much for the both of us. So, Harry told me that he needed some time away and took off for a business trip. During this, I contacted my doctor friend Kylie from college. Kylie could not make it to the wedding because of work. So I told her all about the wedding, and eventually I told her I was pregnant and could not decide if I wanted to keep the baby or not. She was excited at first about the possibility of being a fun aunt, and I told her Harry had almost run away listening to the news. Kylie herself has a couple of kids, so she told me about the struggles of pregnancy and the hardships involved. But watch my young one giggle, and his eyes shine is so beautiful and fulfilling. I don't mind going through it all once again, she said. This just added to the confusion. I did not call my parents because I was simply too scared to listen to their lectures. They would be supportive of either decision I took, but their words would sting too much for me to bear, so I pushed it off for yet another time. A week later, Harry came back with a surprisingly happy demeanor. His suggestion was simple. We're keeping the baby. I internally conflicted, so I was happy Harry was clear and confident enough to take on the decision, and we were extremely nervous. We knew it would be a long 9 months. My due date is May of next year, and my body and mood would change a lot during it and after it, and Harry agreed to take less responsibility at work and simply concentrate more on my well-being. Well, with both of us confident, we broke the news to my parents, and they did not like the idea at all, especially my mother. Harry also told them how having quite a bad childhood convinced him to be the best father he could ever be, but they did not budge. They straight up told Harry they did not trust him to be a good father, and there was a massive, giant fight, with all of us slinging insults towards each other, and finally, I told my parents I would be cutting them off completely, and yes, this broke my dad's heart, and he walked away. Harry and I drove back home in complete silence, and an hour before we were so happy about taking this next step together. And now, it was all muddied with unnecessary drama, and for a couple of days we did not discuss the baby issue at all. Kylie was in a constant touch with me, especially after I told her about my fight with my parents. She knew how important family was in such situations, and Harry then, one day, told me to hire a helper around the house for the first few months, since only he really could not reduce his working hours, and I, for one, have quit my job completely. The first few months were awful. Random cravings, sleepless nights, morning sickness, and worst of all, Harry seems too detached from it all. He rarely wakes up to help me out and comes back home quite late, and after a week we hired a helper named Nancy. She was a 40-year-old former nurse, and she and Kylie are my lifelines right now. Their joy and enthusiasm keep me from going insane. But the reason I'm telling you all this story is because I want my husband, Harry, to be a little more responsive about the baby matter. I don't want to bother him, but I feel like right now he almost doesn't care that I'm even pregnant. Since it's quite a sensitive subject, I cannot approach anyone near me, so here I am, asking everybody here listening, well, how to start the conversation. Let me know in the comment section down below. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Okay, so today's story is a little bit of drama mixed in with a pregnancy. So I want to know what you guys think OP's going to do about this situation. Drop your thoughts in the comment section, then come back after the story's over and let's see how close you were. The first update we're going to hop in is 3 weeks later, and if you guys are new to the channel, just know I do daily videos, so if you want to be a part of that, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. It helps out supporting the channel a lot as well, so you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Update number 1, 3 weeks later. Thank you all for your concern. I understand this post has gotten a lot of attention in the last few days. But unfortunately, the situation has gotten much worse, and after reading the comments on the post and also discussing the matter with Kylie a little, I decided the best course of action would be to talk it out with Harry in a gentle but firm manner. So, on the previous Sunday, we were both at home watching some television shows, and I slowly started asking him about work. Then he directed the conversation to when he would be making more time for me and the baby. He said he would not be able to compromise at work anytime soon since there was a big merger that he was handling. This put me in a very sour mood. Entirely, I just ignored him completely for the rest of the day. The next day, he asked what was wrong, and I reminded him about his promise to be with me during these hard months of pregnancy, and I don't know, this somehow seemed to offend him. He just stormed off to work. Such little fights kept sparking up and eventually led to a big argument in front of Kylie and Nancy. This was the first major argument in our relationship. We had never fought for so long and had such things said to each other, and Harry was thoroughly insulted when Kylie and Nancy took me by the side of the argument while trying to cool us both down. He called us, well, very provocative words, who were out to insult him and stormed off. Now the fight's gotten territorial. We both don't want to see each other's face or be in the same room as each other. I really cannot call my parents for some sympathy and warmth. Now my own husband's treating me like a stranger in our own house, and all of this is getting out of hand for me to do anything about it. I even went to a therapist last week to try to get my feelings sorted out. After listening to me for an hour, she advised me to somehow get Harry to come as well, since it's an issue of communication and misunderstanding, but I know for sure that Harry will not agree to come to this. He already hates Kylie and Nancy for taking my side, and this therapy session will just look like another trap to him. But I really want to resolve this issue as quickly as possible, and I don't want our children to be born into a home where their parents hate each other. Cold shoulders and toxic fights will just break the child's mental state. Update number 2, 2 months later. 2 days ago, we went to a therapist. This was after nearly a month of fights and convincing, and I had almost given up on the whole thing and contemplated divorce. This would have been the best, maybe, because the therapy session did not go as planned. First off, for a bit of context, I'm nearly 5 months pregnant and my entire body aches, and I just have random health issues that are starting to pop up. You see, I have to go for regular checkups with Nancy. All of this time I felt very lonely, even though Nancy was constantly with me until 9 p.m. and was just a phone call away at night. We had grown into quite the close friends, and it turned out Nancy's husband works as an engineer at the New York City DOT. Her children are nearly 20 years of age, and she had become, in these few months, like a second mother to me. So, after another fight at home with Harry, Nancy invited me to stay at her place for a while. I declined at first, since they were already 4 people in her house, and I could not possibly intrude. Nah, you would not be interrupting or anything, we would all be happy. With both of us around, maybe my dumb, irresponsible son could be straightened up. What do you say? She asked. I finally agreed to it, since it would not be different for Harry, since he only came back home to sleep, and I just went ahead and told him the next day that I would be leaving just to go live with Nancy until the end of my pregnancy. And he looked shocked, but did not start a fight at all, which hurt me a lot, and I understand that during these periods of my body has had a lot of mood swings. But this hurt me so much that he would not even fight to keep me at home. He had truly, in all senses, given up on us, so during my month-long stay, I contacted my lawyer and told him to draw up the divorce papers. I mailed the papers to Harry's place after they were done, and I could not be bothered to even call him after all that crap that happened, but I did get a call from him. He told me he was willing to try therapy, since he did not want, quote, his child to have divorced parents, and I could not have cared less, but I agreed to 1 therapy session. This was where he dropped the bomb. So in therapy, she told us to honestly vent in a statement about what we wanted from the other person to hear, and I told Harry that his despondent attitude and almost complete lack of responsibility as a husband had convinced me to divorce him. After which he said, and I quote, well, to be honest, I think I want an open relationship with Claire. I mean, I love her, I really do, but I'm also attracted to other women. This whole child business was a stupid idea that I thought would make me fall in love with her again. Even with the proposal, I thought that after getting married and having children, we would be like every other couple in the world, happy and content with each other. But I could not do that. I want to be free. So I would love if she agreed to have an open marriage. Well, this shocked my therapist into silence, and my mood turned into a rage. Now I understand all the coldness he was having affairs, and was too scared to let me know. I mean, I screamed and even threw my therapist water bottles at him. I was convinced that after all this, I did not want to be with Harry any longer. This was the final straw. The next day, I filed for divorce and went through with it completely, and I also filed for the complete rights of my unborn child. It did not really come to my head because I did not want him anywhere near us, and Harry wants at least the visitation rights, but my lawyer has promised me that after the narrated incidents, the judge and jury will be swayed to my side, most definitely. In between all of this, Harry was trying to call and tell me how an open marriage would work for the both of us. This constant torture of getting calls and messages annoyed me to the point where I completely blocked his number. All of this rage has made me realize my parents' hunch about Harry was not misplaced at all. But I had no clue how to even begin to mend the relationship, so I'm hoping that after the baby's born, I can somehow cool them down. Babies, and their cute little smiles melt any big guys out there. Do you think your parents won't come around? Just trust me and wait for it, Nancy said. I had also saved enough money to move into a nice rented apartment in the city, and Nancy and I have been shopping to furnish the new house as well. Anyways, thank you all for your kind comments and concerns about me. I know this story has ended up worse than any of you might have imagined, but your support has helped me a lot. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So I just want to interrupt really quickly and tell you update number 3 and update number 4 were very hard to find. And update number 3 was spread pretty far. I mean, it came out 2 years later, so we're going to get a very deep perspective about what's going on in OP's life. So here it is, update number 2, 2 years later. Life has taken a turn for the better since the last time I updated you all. It turns out that you can only hit rock bottom once, and right now I have a baby boy named Thomas. He's 2 years of age, and the delivery was a huge ordeal. I was in labor for over 5 hours, and I passed out twice during it, which made Nancy panic and call my parents, and my dad drove like a lunatic to get to the hospital in record time. This also meant I had to explain to them, in between extreme pain, why my husband was not here. Well, to be honest with you guys, the court also completely ruled in my favor. But I told him that I would send him occasional photographs, and maybe after the kid grew up and wanted to meet his father, I would allow it. Harry just looked arrogant as ever and told me he did not care. Nancy, bless her soul, made sure that the questions and concerns would be satisfactorily answered. She also stayed at the hospital at night, taking turns with my dad and mom. My parents were happy that both I and the baby had made it through without any serious health problems. My mother also demanded that she stays at my place until I was healthy enough to go back to work. Both of them were furious that I had not told them about the divorce and had gone through the last months of the pregnancy alone. We also fought a lot about how I had decided to abandon their, quote, love for my ex-husband. But therapy has made me understand a lot about myself and my parents. So, I slowly explained to them how their fights and discussions affected my views on relationship, and I also told them about darker things that went through my mind when I was a teenager. This made them understand, to a surprising degree, the way I and everyone around them had behaved. I also asked them why they did not want me to marry Harry. Well, to be honest with you, he is, at least back then, very unsure of his grip on reality. I mean, he loved you, yeah, no doubt, but he could be very easily convincing that you were a villain if you weren't always agreeable. It's hard to describe it, honey. When I worked as an ad agent, we realized some clients did not, need convincing that an idea was good, but rather that other ideas were simply horrible. So, you pitch the bad ones to them before you pitch the good ones to them, and they're flaky but self-absorbed people, my father said. After Thomas was done with the breastfeeding phase of childhood, I started reaching out to agencies just to find a job. My old boss heard I was looking to come back to work and offered me a job again. Same job that I left a while ago, and my parents had become full-time nannies at this point. Nancy had gone to work with another single mother, but we kept in touch, and I would give my life for that woman. She was the rock in my crumbling life. I was moody and distraught and completely abandoned by everybody close to me. My parents thanked her graciously for helping me, and I have not heard from Harry since the delivery. I sent him a photo of Thomas 2 days after he was born, and this was at least something I figured I could do for him as a father, but I'm happy right now. Thomas will grow up and have questions, but I'm willing to be honest about it with him all. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here, interrupting for the last time to let you know. Update number 4 was buried deep into the last page of the original post, which was like 300 pages, but I have it. Update number 4, 5 years later. Recently, there have been some extremely interesting incidents that have taken place that are related to Harry, so I thought I should update once more. Thomas has been going to primary school where he sees other kids with dads around, though he's asked me about Harry before. School incidents really pushed him to throw a tantrum about it. So I sat him down one day and told him about his father. I left out most of the details, but gave him the general gist of why we're separated, and he asked me multiple times if we could become friends again and how he knew kids in his school who hated each other but turned into the best of friends. My mother started talking to him after that, since she saw that I was clearly lost. But I could see how a lack of having a father figure may cause issues during development, but I really did not want to talk to Harry again. I've also completely stopped dating. It's not because I hate doing it. I'm just too busy to go through all of that. Especially with a kid and my aging parents. I mean, it's just simply too much, you know. So, I have no personal life other than my family, so with the reluctance, I called Harry one day, but his phone was switched off, and I tried again multiple times after that, but it was always turned off. I was a little angry at that point that he had the audacity to just cut his child off from his life too, so I gave up on completely it, but before I ran into him in the street one day in New York, and I was already late for work, so I could not talk to him too much, but he told me he had lost his previous phone somewhere. So we just exchanged numbers and went our separate ways. At the office, when I recalled the incident, I realized that Harry had gotten significantly thinner. Though he was decently dressed and responsive, every word he said felt like he was in pain. But nonetheless, that evening I called him up and he was happy to meet Thomas and me for lunch one day. So we set the date for Saturday. Thomas, for nearly a week, was thrilled about getting to meet his father. He even wrote down stories he wanted to tell Harry. That day he got up early and did not eat breakfast because he wanted to save up for lunch. We met at a casual pizza place downtown, and the lunch was a blast. Thomas was hesitant at first, but slowly opened up and started rambling on and on about his life. He even asked me and Harry to be friends again so we could go to his school together. Harry just smiled and laughed about the whole thing, and eventually, Thomas ran out of things to talk about and we drove back home. Harry came with us because I offered to drop him off at his place, and Thomas was so exhausted from lunch and interactions that he went to sleep in the back seat. That was when Harry broke down and started to cry. He told me how much he regretted his life decisions, and it turns out Harry had contracted hepatitis B. After our divorce, he went out partying all the time and dishing it out to anyone and everyone, and eventually, all of that had extreme consequences, and he still had a career and enough wealth to support himself, but his physical and mental health was absolutely destroyed. He told me he was happy he had met his son once in his life, and he thanked me for raising Thomas and to be such a nice kid. I don't know how long I'll be alive, but I want you to be a better parent than I could have ever been, so please, never leave him alone. He begged me that, and I agreed and consoled him, and on the way back he asked me if Thomas could meet him every other week, and I obliged. There was no negotiating after all. Just keep him safe, that is all I ask. And he replied with one word, always. Well, guys, that's the end of the story. I don't think I'll be updating this thread further. Everything just seems resolved enough, but I wish I had fought with him more. Maybe after the baby he would have stopped his insanity anyways. It's too late for all that now.
So guys, it looks like at the end of this story, we find out how Harry, OP's significant other, was not happy with his life choices, and he actually might not be living for far too much longer because of the virus that he's gotten. So I want to hear from you guys what exactly you think about OP's position when at the end of the story she reveals, hey, maybe if I would have done more arguing instead of just leaving him, he would not have gone down this route and we might actually still be together. So I do want to hear from you guys. What do you think about that? Or do you think, you know what, OP, you're being too hard on yourself? You didn't do anything wrong. He was not there for you. He wanted an open marriage. These were all choices that he made. So drop your thoughts down below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I narrate stories, animate them every single day. And if you do want to help support the channel out, all you have to do is subscribe. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. And remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.